Spring 1900. A Greek sponge diver descends into a shipwreck off a small island in the Aegean Sea. He surfaces a few minutes later babbling about rotting corpses on the seafloor. His captain thinks the pressure has driven him mad. He goes down himself to check. There are no corpses, just corroded bronze statues. They spend months pulling things from the wreck. Marble sculptures, glassware, gold earrings, and then one corroded lump of bronze, about the size of a large dictionary. Nobody pays much attention to it. It sits in a storage room at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens for 2 years, until one researcher notices something strange. There's a gear inside it. Not one gear, 30 gears. Precision gears, engineered to predict eclipses, to track the movements of the moon, to calculate the dates of the Olympics centuries into the future. The world's first computer, built 2,000 years ago, and then lost. For 1,500 years, nothing of comparable complexity was built again. 1,500 years. The question that nobody has fully answered is why? And the answer is more disturbing than you might expect. Let me tell you what this device actually was. Because the word computer makes people think of screens and keyboards. Forget that. This was a hand-cranked bronze box, about the size of a shoebox. On the outside, 2 faces covered in dials, pointers that tracked the sun, the moon, the planets, the Metonic cycle, the 19-year pattern that governs when lunar and solar calendars align. Even the Saros cycle, an 18-year pattern that predicts when eclipses will occur. Turn the crank forward one day, and every pointer moves to show you exactly where every celestial body will be. Turn it forward a year, 10 years, 100 years. The mathematics inside was so sophisticated that one of the gears modeled the irregular speed of the moon's orbit. The fact that the moon speeds up and slows down as it moves around the Earth. A variable speed gear, inside a hand-cranked bronze box, 2,000 years ago. Tony Freeth, a researcher from University College London who has spent 25 years studying this device, described it as almost unbelievable in its brilliance. His team reconstructed it in 2021. It took modern engineers with modern computers and 3D imaging to fully understand what ancient Greek engineers had built by hand. And here is the detail that I cannot stop thinking about. The device had an instruction manual, inscribed on its surface, in Greek. Someone built this extraordinary machine, and then worried that the person who received it wouldn't know how to use it, so they wrote the instructions directly into the bronze. They wanted it to be understood. We know roughly when it was made. Around 100 BC. We know roughly where. Probably the island of Rhodes, a major center of Greek astronomy at the time. We know it was on a ship headed somewhere, probably Rome, probably as a luxury gift for someone very wealthy. And we know it sank, and wasn't found again for 2,000 years. What we don't know, what we may never know, is how many others there were. Because this is the only one we have. One device, one shipwreck, one storm. And the question that haunts every historian who studies it, what else went down with the ship? What else existed that we simply haven't found yet? And what happened to the tradition of knowledge that produced something like this? Because here is the fact that changes everything. After this device was built, 1,500 years passed before anything of comparable mechanical complexity appeared again in the historical record. 1,500 years. European clockmakers of the 14th century are the next engineers who come close. Something happened to the knowledge. It didn't fade slowly. It stopped. And that pattern, knowledge that reaches too far ahead, too fast, and then disappears, didn't end in ancient Greece. It happened again, 1,900 years later, on Long Island, New York, to a man who was trying to give free electricity to the entire planet, and who died alone in a hotel room feeding pigeons out a window. His name was Nikola Tesla, and his story is almost impossible to believe. By 1901, Nikola Tesla was already famous. Not Edison famous, not Rockefeller famous, but famous enough that J.P. Morgan, the richest man in America, agreed to meet him. And Tesla pitched him something extraordinary. A tower, 187 feet tall, on Long Island, that would transmit wireless electricity through the atmosphere to the entire planet. Free. No wires, no meters, no utility bills. Power for everyone, everywhere. Morgan gave him $150,000, roughly $5 million today, and Tesla started building. He hired Stanford White, one of the most famous architects in America, to design the facility. He bought 200 acres of land in a small village called Shoreham. Construction began. The tower rose, 187 feet into the Long Island sky, topped with a 55-ton copper dome, and Tesla was optimistic for the first time in years. But here's what Morgan didn't know. Tesla hadn't told him everything. The tower wasn't just a wireless communication system. Tesla wanted to transmit power, free wireless electrical power, to the entire planet. Not just messages, not just radio, actual electricity, flowing through the air and the earth itself, available to anyone, everywhere, for free. No meters, no control, no way to charge people for it. In 1903, Tesla finally admitted this to Morgan. Morgan's response was a short letter. "I should not feel disposed at present to make any further advances." That was it. No anger, no accusation, just a short letter. And the money stopped. Tesla tried to find other investors. He wrote hundreds of letters. He explained his vision to anyone who would listen. Nobody gave him a cent, because the question that Morgan's letter left unspoken, understood by everyone who heard the idea, was always the same. If the power flows freely through the air, how do you charge people for it? You can't. And if you can't charge people, you can't make money. And if you can't make money, no one will fund it. Tesla's finances collapsed. He took out a mortgage on Wardenclyffe to pay his hotel bills at the Waldorf Astoria. Then a second mortgage. The workers left. Stanford White, his architect and close friend, was shot and killed by a jealous husband at Madison Square Garden in one of the most sensational crimes of the Gilded Age. Tesla suffered what appeared to be a nervous breakdown. By 1917, the tower was demolished, sold for scrap, for $20,000, to help pay his debts, and Tesla retreated to a small room at the Hotel New Yorker, where he spent his final years alone. A strict germaphobe. He dined alone. He never married. He sat by his window every afternoon and fed pigeons, white pigeons specifically. He had names for some of them. He told an interviewer once that he loved a particular white female pigeon the way a man loves a woman, that she brought meaning to his life. When she died, he said something that I think tells you everything about who Nikola Tesla was. He said, "I knew that my life's work was finished, not when the tower came down, not when Morgan withdrew the money, when the pigeon died." He died in January 1943, alone in his hotel room. The FBI seized his papers the next morning. Some remain classified today. And the technology he was working on? Your phone charges wirelessly right now, sitting on a pad on your nightstand. Tesla wasn't crazy. He wasn't a failure. He was early. And the world wasn't ready for him. Two stories, 2,000 years apart. The same pattern. A mind that reaches too far ahead. Knowledge that disappears. And a world that isn't ready. But here's what I haven't told you yet. This pattern has a name. And once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. Everywhere. Including right now. In things happening today that nobody is paying attention to. In 1969, a mathematical proof published by two respected researchers claimed that a certain kind of neural network, a computer model loosely inspired by the structure of the human brain, had a fatal mathematical flaw. Funding dried up almost overnight. For the next 20 years, a small group of researchers kept working on it anyway. One of them was a young scientist named Geoffrey Hinton. He had a quiet, methodical manner, not charismatic, not famous, just persistent. He worked in labs that were underfunded and overlooked. He was told repeatedly that he was wasting his time, that the problem was unsolvable, that neural networks were a dead end, that he should work on something that actually mattered. His colleagues moved on to other things. His funding dried up and was renewed and dried up again, and he kept working. In 2018, Hinton shared the Turing Award, computing's equivalent of the Nobel Prize, for the exact research everyone had told him to abandon. The neural networks he kept working on became the foundation of modern artificial intelligence. Everything that seems intelligent today runs on ideas that were declared dead in 1969. 3 stories. 3 moments where knowledge was too far ahead of its time. The Antikythera mechanism. The world's first computer, sitting on a seafloor for 2,000 years. Tesla's tower, sold for scrap for $20,000, while the inventor fed pigeons alone. Hinton's neural networks, unfunded and mocked for 20 years, then proven right in ways that changed everything. None of them were wrong. They were just early. And here's the pattern that connects all 3. In every case, the knowledge didn't disappear because it was incorrect. It disappeared because the world around it wasn't ready to receive it. The funding wasn't there. The infrastructure wasn't there. The materials weren't cheap enough. The manufacturing wasn't precise enough. The people in power couldn't see how to make money from it. And so they stopped supporting it. And the knowledge went quiet. Sometimes for decades. Sometimes for centuries. Sometimes forever. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Where is the next Antikythera mechanism? Right now. Today. What knowledge exists in a lab nobody is funding? In a garage nobody is watching? In the mind of someone who has been told repeatedly that they are wasting their time? We don't know. That's the point. We never know. We find out decades later, sometimes centuries later. When someone pulls a corroded lump of metal out of a museum storage room and notices there are gears inside. Tesla's wireless power ideas were published and patented. They're still available to read. Nothing about them has changed. What changed was the world around them. The technology caught up. The materials got cheaper. The manufacturing became precise enough. And what was impossible in 1903 became the pad on your nightstand in 2023. The knowledge didn't change. The world did. Hinton's ideas from the 1970s didn't change either. The computers just got fast enough to run them. So, what is sitting in a lab right now waiting for the world to catch up? What is being mocked, underfunded, told to work on something that actually matters? We won't know for 50 years, maybe 100. But somewhere right now, someone is building the next thing that the world isn't ready for. And the only difference between the Antikythera mechanism and every idea that was lost forever is that one of them was on a ship that happened to sink near a small Greek island where sponge divers happened to take shelter from a storm. Luck. That's the difference. Which means there are ideas we've lost that we don't even know we've lost. Inventions that never made it to a shipwreck. Towers that were torn down before anyone understood them. Knowledge that lived in the hands of one person and died with them. That thought is either terrifying or motivating, depending on who you are. That lump of corroded bronze, the one that sat in a storage room for 2 years. That had been on the seafloor for 2,000 years before that. It's at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens right now. You can go see it. The University College London team published their full reconstruction in 2021. Modern engineers with modern computers finally understood what ancient Greek engineers had built by hand. 2,000 years later. The mechanism still works. Not the original, but the reconstruction. You can turn the crank and watch the gears move and see the moon's position update and the eclipse prediction dial advance. And you can think about the person who built this, who worried that whoever received it wouldn't know how to use it. So they wrote the instructions into the bronze itself. They wanted it to last. They wanted it to be understood. They built something extraordinary. And they wanted someone someday to see it. 2,000 years later, we finally did. If this made you think differently about something, a like helps more than you think. And if you want to be here when we find the next thing that the world wasn't ready for, subscribe. See you there.